Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here every week to bring you the latest updates of everything happening in the world of Google Workspace. This podcast is available from your regular podcast provider in audio format and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today.
We have 9 updates for you today, but as you've heard, I don't have to get through them on my own. I've got lovely Adam back with me.
That's right. I'm back, everyone.
I'm back, B-words. We're a family show, so we can't say that. Okay, we've got updates to Google Workspace, Google Meet again, another one to Workspace, Google Docs, Google Classroom, another one to Google Classroom, Google Chat and Workspace. Lovely to see some Classroom updates in there as always. As always, there is a link in the podcast or video description to the document that we read from. This document contains some more detailed information, some relevant links, some pictures and even some moving graphics showing you these features in action. So let's get to it.
On with the show. Right, so the very first update that we have for everybody today, I think this is a little update lit, and I think it was the only update lit that we have for everybody this week to do with Workspace. So, report sharing and comment push notifications for abuse on Android devices. So, in order to make the process of reporting abuse much easier and reduce unnecessary exposure to harmful content on Android devices, users will now have the ability to report comment notifications and sharing notifications as spam directly from their notification via the Google Drive app. If users have lost access to a document, they will still be able to perform a user block on the user who sent the share or comment.
Okay, this is really nice to see. So I remember this update coming out a while ago where you could suddenly report comments and you could report sort of unsolicited share requests through Google Drive and various things like that, and you could report that as spam and it sort of went to that spam area. So I guess this is just sort of expanding to Android, and really nice to see you can do it directly from the notification as well. So that's going to be slick.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, just as you say, it is a little bit like the update that we had previously. I think that was more centered around Google Drive, whereas now this is very similar to that update, but available on Android. So that will be really handy. So everyone can do it just on the go on their Android device.
Yeah, really nice to see.
If
Hopefully
needed,
we'll see this.
But hopefully, we hope users won't actually need to use this feature. It is one of those products, one of those updates that we hope you don't actually need to use it, but obviously it is very handy to have that option when required.
Yeah, I agree. And hopefully we'll start to see this on iOS as well, which would be really nice, having the same ability in the notification area, because I don't think that's available in iOS at the moment. Thank you, Adam. What's the rollout and availability here, please?
Okay, so it's rolling out now to rapid and scheduled release, but at an extended pace. So it's going to take a little while. And Google expects the completion of this rollout to be January 2024, which sounds like ages away, but in reality that may only actually be a couple of weeks ago, which is actually slightly scary when you say it out loud. But this update will be available to all Google Workspace customers, as well as users with a personal Google account. And I've also added a lovely link in our document if anybody would like to learn more about reporting a violation.
Great, that's wonderful, Adam. Thank you very much. What have we got next, please?
Up next, a Google Meet update. So, Meet add-ons SDK is available in the developer preview program. So the Google Meet web add-ons SDK is available through Google's developer preview program. Developers can use the SDK to bring their app experience right into Meet. End users can install, open and collaborate in apps right inside a meeting, either as the meeting focal point or in the sidebar, or without ever leaving Google Meet. Recently, Google announced the ability of the Google Meet API through the Google Workspace Developer Preview program. The Google Meet Add-ons SDK expands on these platform capabilities and allows developers to integrate apps and workflows directly into the Meet user interface. There are two ways in which add-ons show up in the Google Meet: the stage flow of a meeting or the meeting side panel. The main stage allows apps to be the focal point of a meeting experience, unlocking the opportunity for add-on users to collaborate while in a meeting. The side panel allows users to share data, take surveys, or update records while staying focused on the discussion in the meeting. Partners such as Atlassian, Figma, Lucid, Miro, Read.ai, and Poly.ai have already built and launched Meet add-ons, and Google is super excited to see what other apps and workflow developers will build into Meet's highly interactive surfaces.
This is a really nice update. I mean, we've seen... I think we talked about this a little bit before with Lucid and Figma. I know they're always at the forefront of these sort of integrations, but this is very nice to know that it's opening up to more app developers out there, more developers out there in general, to be able to sort of bring this directly to within Google Meet. So for anybody listening wondering how exactly this works, there's some very nice graphics in here showing those differences between what Adam described, where you've got the main stage and then the users on the side, or you've got the users as the focal point and then the app as the side panel. Depending on obviously what type of app you develop or what sort of system you work on, those two sort of flavors will be quite useful for you. And there's also a graphic here showing Atlassian as well, if that's how you say it, Adam. I'm not too sure what the pronunciation is there. But there's sort of an example here showing Atlassian, and that's actually using the main stage setting where Atlassian is the main focal point and then the users are on the right-hand side. And what this looks like is effectively, kind of looks like a sharing sort of screen, doesn't it, Adam?
That's
really?
just what I was thinking. It is very similar to if you were just presenting within Google Meet. However, instead of presenting a Google slideshow or maybe your Chrome tab or something like that, you're essentially presenting your app.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the difference here, one of the key differences here, unless I'm misunderstanding it, because looking at this graphic, I can see different color cursors around. So I think this is sort of the experience that you would see if you were sharing a Google Doc that you were then all working and accessing on. This is sort of similar in the fact that you're sharing the app, but within Google Meet, and you're all on it. You're all kind of interacting on it. I think that's
a really good point, actually. Yeah, so it's not presenting in the sense that you're all just viewing what someone else is showing to you. You can all collaborate, presumably all in real time, and actually work directly on your app together, all within Google Meet.
Yeah, I think that's the key difference. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a little bit... Is there a little bit more information here, Adam, about the preview?
Yes, there is. So during developer public preview, add-ons can only be deployed within your domain and are only accessible whilst using Google Meet on the web. In the coming months, Google will also launch Meet add-ons SDKs for Android and iOS to expand these capabilities to mobile form factors. And if you'd like to access the Preview SDK, then please join the Google Workspace Developer Preview program, and I've added a link in our document for anyone that is interested in that. Using the Google Meet add-on SDK, before going further, do we know what SDK stands for?
A software developer kit. So it's kind of a standard sort of...
So anyone using the Google Meet add-on software developer kit, of course I already knew that, developers can integrate their apps directly into Google Meet. In turn, meeting participants can leverage these apps to collaborate on a whiteboard, brainstorm with their latest design files, and more, all without leaving the Google Meet user interface.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing there, is the integration of those apps to allow you to collaborate on those apps within Google Meet. So that looks really, really cool. And thanks for adding that link in as well for people to be able to join the developer preview program. That's really useful for people to be able to access that. And of course, stay tuned to the podcast as well to hear about some of those updates that are coming through to Android and iOS where they start to expand this out. What's the getting started here, rollout pace and availability, please, Adam?
Okay, so for the admins getting started, there is no admin control for the Meet add-on SDK. The availability of Google Meet add-ons in meetings can be controlled through the Google Meet admin controls. And You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about admin controls for add-ons. For the developers out there, to use the Google Meet add-ons SDK, developers can apply for access through the Google Workspace Developer Preview program, and as mentioned, I've added a link in our document for that. Google's developer documentation has more information about using the Meet add-on SDK, and again, I've added a link in for that. For the end users out there, you can also go and visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about using add-ons with Google Meet, and there may just be a lovely link for you as well. And this feature is available right now through the Google Workspace Developer Preview program and is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers.
Great, thank you very much, Adam. I think we've got another Meet update next, haven't we?
Yes, that's right. So Huddly cameras bring continuous framing to Google Meet Series 1 room kits. So I think we've discussed Series 1 hardware devices before, so I'm pretty sure this update is going to be relating to Google Meet hardware, not software. It's
just Google Meet itself. Yeah.
So as part of the initiative to bring adaptive framing to Google Meet meeting rooms, Google is very proud to announce that you can now access Huddly's continuous framing capability, available as part of the Series 1 RoomKit hardware devices. Huddly's new framing solution continuously adjusts to include participants coming and leaving the room. The feature can be turned on by meeting participants directly from the touch controller. Using Huddly framing helps keep those in the meeting room in view no matter where they are, so that they're more visible to other participants in the meeting, which creates a more engaging experience.
That's really useful. We've actually seen one of these updates before, just within Google Meet normally, haven't we, about sort of framing you correctly in the camera. And I think we said at the time, and I think this is a good example of it, it's really useful in a bigger meeting space, a bigger meeting room.
Absolutely, because if you're in a meeting, just like where this meeting that we're on right now, although I may be fidgeting just a little bit, we're sat at a chair. I'm not just wandering around. I'm not going to wander off and make a cup of tea or something and have to bring my camera to follow me whilst we're doing that or something. But just as you say, if you're in a meeting, especially if there's people joining or leaving a table, or the focal point changes depending on who is actually speaking at the time, it would be really good for the focus to remain on everybody that is actively participating in that meeting.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that would be very useful for those larger meetings.
I've also noticed that this style of update has become quite popular from other big brands as well, and on their own cameras and things. So, but I think it is a really good update. I do actually quite like this feature, regardless of the provider that is providing it.
Yeah, I've found that it actually works pretty well as well, which is really good. So, you know, if something like this works, then it's great, isn't it? What's this bit more information here about? Google have changed some things, right?
Okay, yes. So to support this change, Google has updated the camera control on the touch controller to display all the framing options available in your meeting room and allow users to toggle between them. They've also moved the camera self view from the manual control component on the touch controller to the TV or monitor display for optimal placement. With meeting spaces becoming more diverse, the display is the most common accessible interface to all meeting participants. They have also changed the home button in manual control to reset to default.
Okay, so for anybody used to using these sort of Google Meet hardware devices like this, that will be probably makes sense as to how they've moved all of that. And there is a nice graphic here that Adam's added with all of the sort of controls shown there and the framing for the camera shown there as well. So you feel free to have a look at the document that's linked in our descriptions to see that in a bit more detail. Thank you for that, Adam. And what's the getting started rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so for the admins out there is no admin control for this feature at this time. However, Google does plan to introduce an admin control in the future and will provide more information once it's available. Well, they're not the only ones. We will also provide more information once it becomes available, so stay tuned for that. For the end users, though, this feature will be off by default, but you can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about using device-based framing and using the Meet the Touch screen to control audio and video. Note that Huddly continuous framing must be turned on for each meeting and will not carry over to the subsequent meetings. So that may be a little bit annoying, potentially. It may actually depend on how good the feature is. If it's great, then well, if you're probably like us actually, then you probably would just want it turned on all the time, and it is a bit annoying that it will be off by default, so it looks like you would have to manually go and turn it on each time, but we'll see. I wonder, some features can almost get a little bit lost if you have to go too much out of your way to enable them. People just won't do it.
And you've got to think about people in a large meeting room as well. Is everybody going to know how to do that when they go in? Is your organisation so big that you have some IT sort of squirrel who goes in there and turns it on for you? If your meeting gets
set up well in advance and it is all there ready to go, not just, we've got 30 seconds to get on this meeting, let's do it, then in that situation, it's never going to happen, really.
No.
Which is, a little bit of a shame, but as you say, so Google is saying that admin controls will come out in the future. Maybe one of the admin controls would be that you can set it on by default.
Good
so
point.
Who knows?
Yeah.
That's we'll have to see what comes out with that. Right, so the rollout pace for this rapid release and scheduled release, there is a gradual rollout for this update, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on December the 11th. And this is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers that are using the Google Meet Series 1 Room Kits.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you very much, Adam. What have we got next, please?
So, up next, we have another Workspace update. So, you can now record and share your name pronunciation across Google Workspace products. I think this is great. From your Google account settings, you can now record your name and share its pronunciation with other users. The pronunciation can be played from your profile card across various Google Workspace tools, such as Gmail and Google Docs, on web or mobile devices. Google hopes this update will make it easier for you to represent yourself and connect with colleagues in Google Workspace.
It's not bucket, it's bouquet! Wow, there's a blast from the past for all of our users. All our American users are going, what? Yeah, that's a little UK sitcom called Keeping Up Appearances. And that was a sort of running joke, was the pronunciation of the surname there. It's not bucket, it's bouquet. I think that this is great to avoid those type of situations. I'm actually looking at the example that Google's given here, which is actually quite a good example. Leon Gautier, I think that's how you'd say that. But I wouldn't have to guess, right, if I was using the pronunciation tool there. For anybody who's interested in this, I highly encourage you to check out the little graphics that Adam's put in here, because it gives you an example, or a couple of examples here, of what that interface might look like, depending on where you're accessing the person's profile. The little microphone icon is really nice. That's really nice and clear, I think. And I think that this is a really, really cool feature. This is something that I've never thought of, but as soon as you said it, Adam, and started reading out the feature, I thought, wow, that's a really good idea for like larger organisations to avoid any kind of embarrassment or any kind of sort of stuttering during a presentation or anything like that. I think it's really, really nice.
Yes, absolutely, and it's nice for everybody to be addressed by their name because it is their name instead of just saying "Oi, you over there" or something like that. Obviously, it is nice to be able to address somebody, and also by using the correct pronunciation as well. So I know, or I can definitely imagine, if you do have a name that is that people often find challenging to pronounce. If somebody does then address you using the correct pronunciation, especially if it's not somebody that you've actually verbally had to tell before, then I'm sure that would be really nice for them. So I'm on the other end of this, whereas my name is not actually difficult to pronounce. Whenever I actually tell somebody my name, they will never ever spell it correctly. However,
really?
if they see it written down, I always have to spell my name to somebody because I.
Oh wait, your
stutter when I
surname or your first name?
My surname. I like to think I have had people spell my first name, which is Adam, wrong before, which I would.
That's why I was quite surprised because I've had
it
people
is quite
pronounce.
a well-known name.
I've had people. I know, right? And that's what I always think. But I've had foreign people pronounce my name wrong, or non-English speakers pronounce my name wrong, and I'm always quite surprised about that because it's such a kind of ubiquitous name because of the Bible. Obviously, I'm always surprised that people pronounce it wrong. But I've had Edom quite a lot. And I don't know whether that's an accent thing, whether they are saying Adam but in their accent it comes out as Edom, or whether they genuinely don't know how to say Adam or haven't encountered the name before.
Or just thinking about cheese.
Yeah, or just thinking about cheese, exactly. Yeah, it makes me think about cheese every time they say it. That's the problem. But it's your surname that people struggle with. I can understand that if they spell it.
I think my surname is easy to read if you see it written down, but just the way that I happen to say it, I always have to spell it. And there's yes, so that's slightly different to this. So if you do happen to have a name that is not always the easiest or the simplest to read out loud, especially for others from a different community from your own. Maybe it's really easy and maybe it's obvious to your friends and your family or your close peers, but to somebody that's from a different community to your own, then a feature like this could be very, very helpful. And as you kind of mentioned before, it can save people from embarrassment as well, because people don't have to worry about how do I address this person.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely right. Cool. What's the getting started, rollout, pace and availability, please, Adam?
Okay, so for the admins, this feature will be on by default. Love to see that. However, it can actually be turned off at the domain OU or group level if required. And you can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about allowing directory users to change their profile and photo. Link in the document for that. I wonder, would this be great for students? Would it not? Do we think they might get a bit silly? Maybe they wouldn't.
Definitely,
it's a great
get
option.
silly.
It's a great option to have either way, but especially great for those more professional users out there. But for getting started for the end users, though, you can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about changing your Google account picture, name, and other information. Link in the document is for there, but based on the pictures that I have included in the document, it does look as if, as you kind of mentioned, when you go on your profile card, there is a little microphone symbol. So I'm willing to bet, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you just tap that microphone. It will probably give the option to record a couple of seconds of you saying your name. There's almost definitely going to be the option to listen back to it just to make sure you are happy with your own pronunciation of your own name. And then for the end user's point of view, someone else that's receiving your card, in place of your microphone, there was just see a little play button. So then they can just press the little play button to hear your recording that you have pre-recorded. So that's the end users. Rollout pace, so rapid release and scheduled release. Again, it's another extended rollout for this one, which started on December the 11th, and this is going to be available to Google Workspace Business Starter, Business Standard, Business Plus, Essentials Starter, Enterprise Essentials, Enterprise Essentials Plus, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Frontline Starter, Frontline Standard, and Non-Profits. It is not available to Google Workspace Education Fundamentals, Education Standard, Education Plus, or the Teaching and Learning Upgrade customers. So that answers my query about whether students will mess around with this. They will absolutely not mess around with this because unfortunately this feature is not available to them.
It's funny actually because I sort of saw ahead that it wasn't available to education. I thought, oh, that's a shame. But then when you said about students, I thought, oh, that's true actually. Students definitely will mess around with it. Maybe that's why Google haven't made it available to education, but hopefully they'll bring in some control so that you can turn it off specifically for students or something like that, if that isn't there already in the directory control, and then introduce that for education, because that would be quite nice to have even in education, I think.
Yes. Yeah, there's room for updates everywhere where appropriate.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. What's the next update, please?
Easy access to people, documents, building blocks, and more in Google Docs. So, building upon the recently introduced row of buttons at the top of your newly created Google Docs, Google is adding more ways to quickly find and insert relevant content directly into your document, with an additional way to open the app menu. This is another feature that boosts productivity and saves time by bringing smart canvas features to the forefront of your workflow. When moving to a blank line within your doc, you'll see an At button with the option to select, search, and insert smart chips, such as people, dates, timers, file chips, building blocks, calendar, events, groups, and more.
Okay, well, this is very, very useful. We talked about smart chips and building blocks a lot on this podcast.
Once or twice.
Google.
It's been mentioned.
Just once or
Passing
twice.
comment.
As Google have introduced them, we've talked a lot about them, and I think that sort of, I know you're a fan of them, Adam, and I am as well, to be honest. I mean, they are really, really useful, and they're quite a unique Google feature. I haven't seen any other sort of companies create this type of stuff. So I think that this is a really, really nice advancement here, and a really nice sort of, it's almost like an update look to it, isn't it? Sort of adding in a bit more of a feature.
Yes, whilst you were saying that, I just quickly made myself a new document, because I thought I had seen, maybe it's not in Google Docs, maybe it was somewhere else, instead of what the update is now. Previously, if you had no text, I thought in a grayed out text, almost as a suggestion, it would say, type at to then bring up Smart Canvas, or it would give you a quick suggestion, whereas it actually didn't do that. Whereas now, instead of giving you that suggestion, it's just it is an at button that is essentially now inserted. Instead of suggesting that you type at yourself, it is almost just done the at for you, which of course you can ignore if you don't want to use it, but it is there just to click on to jump straight into Smart Canvas if you like.
Yeah, it probably makes it a little bit more obvious, because I think the problem with having that sort of greyed out bit saying, oh, you can type at, I think people were maybe missing that. They weren't maybe reading that. So maybe that's why Google has sort of advanced it to this at button to put in. But like I say, almost a little update look to the way that it works. Not really changing much about Smart Canvas or building blocks itself, is it? Just a bit of a different way of accessing. So that's nice. It's a good way to get people in, and I really like the fact that now they've got a nice context menu for that as well, so that it gives you an idea. Because before it was sort of like you push at, and then you just have to type it in yourself. You'd have to figure out what you were typing in.
We've mentioned quite a few times the different updates that we've even seen come out that we've discussed on this podcast. And as I just mentioned, you can there's people, dates, timers, file chips, building blocks, calendar, events, groups, and more. And so we'll probably continue to see that expand as well. But it is good to see that there is that little menu of what you might like to insert, which may actually just give you a bit of inspiration as well. Instead of thinking, I know that I can insert a file chip or a calendar event, maybe you just maybe able to give you some inspiration, because maybe you're not aware of everything that you can insert, and so it will help out.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like those formula bars that you get in Google Sheets as well, that kind of suggest formulas that you can use. Sometimes people aren't aware of things that exist within sort of the arena of formulas and things like that. So having a bit of suggestion is really nice.
Something that I just noticed as well, again, I just hopped over to my quick blank document. Oh, actually, no, it is clear from there. So I thought it was not too clear on the moving graphic that we had, that the little menu that appears, if you type at yourself or click on the magic at button that will appear for you, you can scroll through that. You're not limited just to those the handful of options that you see. You can scroll, and there are actually quite a lot of options. Like there's email drafts and block code and product roadmap. Oh yeah, I remember when we discussed that one came out, and even suggesting files and calendar events. So there's a good selection of things, and of course emojis. How could we leave off emojis? There's there's lots of options for everyone.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. Thank you, Adam. What's the getting started rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so for the admins, there is no admin control for this feature. But for the end users, this feature will be on by default and cannot be disabled by the user. So sorry about it, you're using it. But you can visit Google's Help Center if you would like to learn more about inserting smart chips and building blocks in your Google Doc. Rollout pace, rapid release, gradual rollout. For this one, again, I think everything's been gradual rollout so far.
It's Christmas, it's a gradual rollout.
Take your time. Gradual rollout for rapid release, which started on December the 11th. Scheduled release, though, full rollout, which will only take 1 to 3 days, they get it a bit snappier when it comes, is starting on January the 2nd, so not until the new year. And this is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers and users with personal Google accounts.
Oh, lovely. Well, that's really nice to hear that it's right across the board. That makes perfect sense. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next? I think this is the first of our Google Classroom updates, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. So you can now excuse assignments in Google Classroom. So following the expansion of grading systems in Google Classroom, Google is adding an additional feature that gives teachers more flexibility when it comes to grading for assignments and classwork. Teachers can mark an assignment for a particular student as excused instead of giving it a score from a 0 out of 100, for example. This will exclude that particular assignment from the student's overall grade. Google hopes this requested feature addresses various class scenarios, such as wanting to drop a student's lowest assignment, excusing an assignment when a student is absent, or any other circumstances in which an assignment should not be included in a student's grade.
Brilliant. What a great feature and a great advancement of Google Classroom this is, because that is so useful to be able to, as it says there, kind of remove that assignment. What do you do otherwise as a teacher, right? You just, give them 0 and then it skews their whole average, but it's not their fault. And then what do? Do you give them just a mark that they kind of got on their last test, or it's a really difficult one if you don't have that excuse button to remove it from their grade, because it's just going to skew all of their averages and it's going to send everything a little bit haywire potentially in what that student's receiving. So this is a really good feature. Well done, Google, and well done, Google, for listening to what the teachers are asking for there. Very good update. What's the getting started rollout pace and availability, please, Adam?
Okay, so there is no admin control for this feature. End users can visit Google's Help Center if they'd like to learn more about excused grading, and I've added a link in our document for that. Rollout pace, rapid release and scheduled release. There is a gradual rollout for this one, which started on December the 12th, and this is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers and users with a personal Google account.
That's a bit weird, isn't it? Users with a personal Google account on Google Classroom. It's I can't imagine a scenario where you'd quite be using that, but okay, it's available to personal customers as well. Fair enough. What's the next update, please? That's another Google Classroom one, right?
Yes, that's right. So, introducing interactive questions for YouTube videos in Google Classroom. So educators can now turn any YouTube video into an interactive lesson by adding questions for their students to answer throughout the video. The interactive questions feature turns a passive watching experience into an engaging one and improves students' understanding of the subject by providing them with the space to make mistakes, review incorrect answers, and assess correct answers at their own pace. Once students within a class have completed the video activity, educators will be able to access a dashboard of key insights based on students' engagement levels. While interactive YouTube video assignments will be beneficial to students, it will also help educators identify concepts that need more instruction time, discover students who may need extra support, and also shape future lesson plans. Educators are also able to scale individualized support, since students will get real-time validation as they answer certain question types in their video activities.
This is really cool. What a great idea this is, to have that sort of interactivity on these generalised YouTube videos. There is a moving graphic here showing it from the student's point of view of watching the video and then providing an answer, and in this case it's like, no, wrong. So it's nice that we're seeing that from the student point of view. I wonder what it's like from the teacher point of view of building this. I imagine that the way this works is you kind of like when you upload a YouTube video and you put the time indexes in and you say this is happening at this point in the video. I imagine it's a similar thing of saying this question needs to be answered at this section of the video. The other thing as well,
because it's not just being asked or answering questions at the end of the video. There are multiple steps throughout the video, so you could do that like every couple of minutes, or essentially once somebody has finished talking about something, you can insert your question that is relevant to what they were just talking about to check that if everybody was actually listening to it.
Yeah, and I wonder as well if there is sort of on the interface here, they show it a little bit. I wonder if the video automatically stops and then the question pops up. I imagine it must do. I think that's what they're showing on the moving graphic here. It's just a little bit hard to tell from the moving graphic whether the person's scrolling or whether it's sort of automatically opening up the question. I think it's automatically opening up the question because they're not...
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? It's like, it's for any listeners, when you sort of see the moving graphic, you'll kind of see what I mean. It's not necessarily obvious as to whether the person's scrolling or whether it's stopped the video. I think it's paused the video, though, because they're not clicking the pause button.
No, I think it definitely automatically paused the video, but whether it then scroll down, or whether it made the question at the forefront of their display automatically or not is another question. Because, for example, what if they were watching the video in full screen? Would the question still pop up, or would it just pause? And everyone's just like, well, why is the video stopped?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I wonder what does happen when you go full screen. This is fantastic, though. I mean, what a brilliant update from Google this is. Really
this
nice
really
feature.
reminded me of, definitely it's a great update, but this really reminded me of, and I'm sure you've seen it before, is training videos that everybody must have been on before. Obviously, this is more for Google Classroom, so not necessarily in a learning not in a student's in a classroom environment, but training videos from various places where I've worked or just ongoing training. It's always watch a video, answer questions about it, watch more video, answer questions about it. It's essentially doing that. It's building training for your students.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I remember those old training videos as well. It's absolutely hilarious. It's like, I remember, I think years ago when I worked at Tesco, it was like somebody dumped a whole load of knives into some soapy water or something. It was like, stop! What's Cindy done wrong in this situation? You know, it's like those really sort of corny videos. But, I mean, it gets the message across,
it
right?
Works.
It's like,
yeah,
exactly. I still remember not to dump a whole load of knives into soapy water because no one can see them in there. So, you know, it's obviously stuck with me. But I think that I'm a big fan of video learning, and I think making it interactive like this is really, really nice because, yeah, you can put assignments with the video, but then the student doesn't always know, do they have to watch a whole 5-minute video and then answer a whole load of questions? It can be quite difficult to remember everything. And I think it's a little bit more engaging when you've got little peppered bits throughout it saying, what was this? You know, what was the information you just took in there? So I think that's quite useful. And also, just as a side note, I'm not a psychologist or a doctor, but I imagine this is possibly quite useful for kids with ADHD as well, because you're breaking up that learning, and those questions are peppered throughout the video rather than it just all being at the end as an assignment.
Yes, I was thinking, I don't know, definitely for me, but I'm sure it's even more so for students as well. It's very easy to lose focus, and then especially if it is a 5-minute video, then you could go and do whatever in 5 minutes. You're almost definitely going to start thinking about something else. You may start doodling, you may go do whatever, but if you basically only have to watch something for a minute and then answer some questions, then you almost don't have time to lose focus. So it definitely does help to keep whomever more engaged for longer.
Yeah, I agree. Really nice update. What's the getting started rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so for the admins, in order to enable the interactive questions feature, YouTube must be turned on by administrators as an additional service for educators. This setting can be managed in the Google Admin Console, and you can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about turning YouTube on or off for users. So that kind of makes sense. If you're inserting YouTube videos into your Google Classroom, your students need to be able to access YouTube in the first place. And there are options for YouTube, so you don't just have to have it completely open if not required. But we don't need to get into that right now. For the educators and end users out there, if it has been enabled by your admin, you can create or delete interactive questions for YouTube videos and grade and track interactive questions for YouTube videos. You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about interactive questions for YouTube videos in Google Classroom, and I've added links for all of that into our document for you all as well. Rollout pace, rapid release and scheduled release. There's a full rollout for this one, so only 1 to 3 days for feature visibility, which is started on December the 12th. So this is probably available by the time this podcast comes out, actually. And this update is going to be available to Education Plus and the Teaching and Learning Upgrade customers.
Great, that's wonderful. Thank you, Adam. That's really, really good to hear. And it is interesting that it's only going to be available to Education Plus and Teaching
They
and
did
Learning
that on
Upgrade as
purpose.
well. Yeah, of course. So, it's a good thing, and important to know as well that you need to be on that tier, right? So like I've always said before about this, but for anybody new listening, if you're an MSP who is supporting education and your customers have not been sure about going to Education Plus, again, this is another feature that is only available on that tier. So another thing that you can say to them, look, hey, you might want to go up to the tier to unlock this sort of feature.
Absolutely, and just quickly before you're about to say coming up next, but before that, I just wanted to very briefly mention this update would go perfectly hand in hand in a previous update that we had, where you can share your Google Classroom assignments with other teachers and educators within your organisation. So if you've spent a long time, or someone has spent a long time adding lots of questions to a YouTube video, you can easily share that with other teachers to recycle the work that has been done, because I'm sure it would also be beneficial to use in future Google Classrooms, or just for others around your school or organisation as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Adam, absolutely. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
Up next, Google Chat. So introducing the Bitbucket app for Google Chat. So following the recently announced Workday app for Google Chat that allows you to perform quick actions in Workday without leaving Google Chat, Google is excited to introduce Bitbucket for Google Chat. Bitbucket is a Git-based code and CI/CD tool optimized for teams using Atlassian's Jira. Adam, what's CI or CD?
CI/CD tool. I don't know. I'm not a developer though, so I'm not too familiar with the terms within. I don't know what CI or CD is. If any of our listeners know, please feel free to tell us. That's I'm not too sure.
Well, it is a tool optimized for that. The Bitbucket app for Google Chat will allow you to receive messages when events occur in your Bitbucket repositories, as well as perform quick actions such as viewing and approving pull requests.
Okay, well this is pretty cool. I suppose it's cool to
so
anybody.
So essentially, is this just saying there's a new app in the Google Chat marketplace that is available for people?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it's saying. I think they're kind of showcasing this Bitbucket. And I see you've added some links in here for people to presumably find out a little bit more about Bitbucket or go to their website. So that's useful if anybody wants to know more about that. But, it's for anybody who's using Bitbucket and wants to have those sort of pings through. I remember there was something similar where there was an integration between Zendesk, which is the support tool that we use, the support desk that we use, and Slack, which we were using for chat at the time before we went over to Google Workspace, where it kind of pinged through any support tickets into Slack. So I think this is a similar thing where when you've got an event, as it says here, you've got an event that occurs in your Bitbucket repository, it will sort of push through. Now there is a graphic here as well showing the Bitbucket here, and it's quite useful because it's a comment. And that seems to have come through on a chat, and then you can sort of reply to it, or you can view the comment all within Google Chat. So again, really nice integration. I'm always up for things that integrate different apps together and make it a bit easier for people to use.
Yes, absolutely. So a little piece of side information for this, because I very quickly just looked it up. So some tools specifically handle the integration, which is CI, and some manage developments and deployments, which is the CD. It's either CI or CL. Is one of the two.
Oh, right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think it's probably CI because CD is capitalised, so I think it's CI. Okay. Thank you, Adam. That's good to know. What's the getting started here?
Okay, so for the admins out there, in the admin console, you can specify whether your users can install the Bitbucket app for Google Chat from the Google Workspace Marketplace. You can also install the Bitbucket app for Google Chat on behalf of users in your domain in order for chat to work. In order for the chat app to work, a Bitbucket app must also install the Google Chat app for the Bitbucket from the Atlassian's marketplace. So that's a bit interesting. So it looks like you need to install it from the Google side, but you also need to do something from the Atlassian's side as well. So it's a two-part installation for this one.
That's good
for
to
the
know.
end users though, if allowed by your admin, you'll be able to install Google Chat apps such as the Bitbucket for Google Chat using the new chat button in Google Chat. The apps you install will appear in the chat conversation list, and you can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about getting started with the Bitbucket for Google Chat.
Great, thank you, Adam. What's the rollout pace and availability, please?
This app is available now for all users and is available to all Google Workspace customers and users with a personal Google account.
Great, that's good to know, but obviously you're going to have Atlassian and Bitbucket and all the rest of it to be able to integrate it. Thank you, Adam. What's the last update, please?
Okay, so finally from us this week, we have a Workspace update. So you can use the profile discovery to display basic information only in search results is now available in an open beta. So Google Workspace admins can now turn on profile discovery for their users. When turned on, users can customize how they appear across Google products to people who search for them by their phone number or email. Specifically, you can choose how you want your name to be displayed and how your profile picture will be displayed. This feature is available in open beta, which means no additional sign-up is required to use the feature. To help people recognize you, Google will share basic information needed to confirm your identity. After you interact with somebody, they'll typically see your full name, profile picture, and more from your Google account.
Okay, this is useful for people who want to control how much is going out on their profile then, and how much they're sort of putting out to people when they're finding them through these various apps. So I think a good example is when you share a document to somebody and you start typing in their name and then it comes up, say, with their profile picture and their name or something like that. For me personally, I'm not fussed about my name being there, so I just have it all set as default with my full name and then my profile picture. We've all got kind of our work profile pictures that we put in, but the example that they've given here with this user Elisa is, she's called Elisa Beckett, but in profile discovery she's removed her profile picture and she's changed her name to Elisa B. So that's a good example of how you maybe want to restrict down your surname, or you maybe want to change your first name, or maybe just initial it or something like that. So I think it's good to give people that control of what people are seeing in the profile discovery there, because I think sometimes people don't realise quite how wide that is. You could open a Google Doc. I could open a Google Doc now and type in pretty much anybody's email address across the world, and they would come up with their email address and maybe their profile picture or their name, depending on what their settings are, what they've put into Google. So I think it's good to give people the ability to control this and raise a bit of awareness that is out there, you know?
Yes, absolutely. One thing that's not super clear, maybe we'll come on to it in a moment, but possibly not, is when you can select how you want your name to be presented, is there the option to type in options for your name, or is it just pre-selected options based on what Google thinks you might like to be called, such as your first initial and your surname, or your surname and your first initial? So, something like that.
It's a good example because, and it's a good question because in the graphic here, it's only got 4 options, hasn't it? It's first name, initial, surname, initial, first name, surname, full name, and then just initials. Those are the 4 options that you've got.
Because you could easily have a name, but you're actually known by another name. And maybe that's a much shortened version of your first name, or maybe it's very different, but it is just your known name, and that is how you would like to be addressed by everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But there doesn't seem to necessarily be the option to do that here. But then they do say in the update, you can sort of change it like that. So yeah, maybe a little bit of playing around if you want to use this feature. What's the getting started rollout pace and availability, please, Adam?
Okay, so this feature will be off by default, but it can be turned on at the domain OU or group level, and this is for the admins out there, and they can also visit Google's Help Center to learn more about users' directory profiles and allowing directory users to change their profile and photo as well. For the end users out there, if enabled by your admin, you can set up your profile discovery in your Google account settings by going to myaccount.google.com, then personal info, your profiles, manage your profile discovery settings, or you can use a link that I've added in our document as well. And of course, you can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about how to control what others see about you across Google services.
Great.
And rollout pace, rapid release and scheduled release. There is another gradual rollout for this one, which started on December the 12th, and this is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers.
That's lovely to hear. That's really, really nice. Yeah, nice update that. Well, that is it, everybody. That's everything that you need to know about all of the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available from wherever you cast your pods in audio format and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strawberry7. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
And we'll be back again next week with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye.